Hello again, everybody. This is Michael from the Awesome 80s Podcast. How are you tonight, Glenn?
That's not your normal opening. You threw me.
Today's show isn't like our normal shows, Glenn.
That's true. I do need to let our guests know, although my name is Lawrence, I am going to continually be called Glenn by this person because that's what they call me. It's very off-putting, I know.
Glenn, what's your mom? If your mom would call you Glenn, I'm going to call you Glenn.
My mom does call me Glenn, so it is what it is. We have a very special guest tonight, Michael. Would you like to introduce our guest?
Yes. Star of everything awesome in the 80s, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, Last American Virgin, and Better Off Dead, Diane Franklin. Thanks for being on our show.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. Anything having to do with the 80s, I am a huge fan of, and I love to participate in, so totally excellent.
I would like to throw in the first femme fatale of the 80s with curly hair.
Ah, thank you. Yes, it's true. If you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, what are they talking about? And it is true. I was the Kickstarter for all that curly hair in the 80s, that perms. It was me. I was the one. And I can say that with total confidence because I had been in the business for 10 years before and had been straightening my hair for years. Those of you who grew up in the 70s know what I'm talking about. It's not to say that people didn't have curly hair. What it was is that it wasn't popular. It wasn't seen as the American look. When you think about like the 80s and what curly hair looked like, when you think of an 80s look, you think of either Cyndi Lauper with the multicolored hair or curly hair. So that was an amazing accident, actually, which is hilarious. But anyway, yes, so I am the first and the only, the first actress. Not to make it the most popular, certainly, but I was the Kickstarter of it all.
So you have a very impressive resume, and we'll talk about it. But this fans of our show over the last 8 years know there's one thing I looked right at a resume and looked for, and you have it. And that is a Murder, She Wrote credit.
Oh, wow. Right?
Yeah, to me, that's it. That's the Holy Grail.
Thank you. And it was incredibly exciting for me when I got it as well. It was actually one of the few jobs that I got hired for without even auditioning, which it doesn't happen often as an actor, at least it takes a while for that kind of thing to happen where people are offering you roles. But for that show, to work with those actors, and it was, it's sort of like I became, for me, like the who's who when I got it.
So I haven't seen the episode, but did you get to have any scenes with Angela Lansbury?
I had one scene that we were in a restaurant. But we didn't have a scene together. I know. We had a scene where we were in the same restaurant, and she was looking at me in a judgmental way because I played a very rich, spoiled brat, and I have like a fur coat, and I'm throwing it on the floor, and I'm very arrogant, and which was really fun actually because I've never played that kind of a role before. And you find out later that I am the mistress of someone in the show, and they catch me in bed with the guy, and it's very like sensational. But it was very fun to play that. And also, you probably should tell the audience. I guess people who are listening to this show probably know Murder, She Wrote. But if you don't, maybe you should explain what the show is.
Oh, everyone who listens to this show knows the greatness of Angela Lansbury's Jessica Fletcher, the murder writer or serial killer. There's theories. I don't want to get into it. We have other episodes we've dedicated to this topic.
Ooh.
But, when it comes to Murder, She Wrote, I'm on it. Yes, so the great mystery writer, Jessica Fletcher from her small town in Cabot Cove. Now, what was the title of your episode? And I'm going to try to guess which one it was. Did you know, or do you remember the plot at all?
No, I don't. But I gotta say, I do remember that the other actors in it with me were really great. It was called. I know the show was. You ready for the title? It was called Family Doctor. And I played Phyllis Gant. That was my character's name.
So I'm going to say, was this a non-Cabot Cove one? Do you remember if you...
I think it wasn't a Cabot Cove one. I think it was outside of Cabot Cove, and it was later in the series, in the show. It wasn't the early years. In fact,
Big White Mansion.
Was,
is there a big mansion involved? I feel like a psychic.
I think it was 1990, so I don't know if that mansion was there. What do you think? I'm not the expert.
No, I'm trying to remember the exact episode because I know I've seen them all so many times, and I went to pull it up, but Netflix pulled them off of Netflix.
Glenn,
I went to watch it today.
Yeah, Glenn.
I'll tell you what I find interesting about the shows when they do this is there's a lot of shows like I've done Charles in Charge and Encyclopedia Brown and I don't know. Finders of Lost Loves and like all these television shows that one minute you see them and there's the whole episode and the next minute they pull it. And so it's kind of interesting. I'm very happy that they air the shows, but I do think it is interesting when it disappears. So you know what they did that with too? Also Dallas, the early years. I did that. And all of a sudden you can only get it on DVD or Blu-ray.
So I know your episode now. It was in a restaurant and there was a mob.
Yes, the mob.
I remember the mob was sick and Dr. Hazlitt had to take care of the member of the mob or they were going to kill him. Nice. And Jessica had to solve the mystery. I totally remember your episode now. It was a wonderful whodunit.
This is a pretty big thrill for Glenn because he kind of has like a Rain Man kind of knowledge of anything that goes on, and from Murder She Wrote, and it's a thrill that you could talk about this episode with him.
Oh my gosh! And I had that long hair that it was I had like sort of blondish highlights in it at that point, and then who was the wonderful actress with the red hair who came in and she finds us together, or she was like there was another actress, you probably know, but. Anyway,
that one I'd have to look up.
Oh, I used to see her. I really enjoyed her performance, and she was a young woman, and she's done a lot of film as well. I know she was a little bit older than me, but anyway.
Cynthia Bain?
I don't think so.
No, not her.
She was a redhead.
Nope. I will make this my mission. Oh, no, that's you. There you are, right there in the IMDb. Oh, there you go. Amy Yazbek.
Yeah. Yes. She was great. I really liked her performance, and I think she's a cool actress. So. Yes,
she was in Pretty Woman.
That's right. That's right. See, there you go. Those of you remembering. And, isn't it fun that and this is one of the things I really enjoy when I go to conventions, is seeing the other actresses who were working at the same time period than I was. And we can all kind of look at each other's work and say like, oh, I loved you in that. You were really good in that. And during that time when we were in the 80s, we didn't have that much of a range to be able to, today, you could even, look somebody up on Facebook and contact them, let alone, in the 80s, it was just like you had to really know that person and then have the time to get together with them. And most of the time, all of us actresses were focusing on our work, so it was hard to get together. So I'm really enjoying this period of life where we're all kind of, looking at each other and going, oh, wow, that was so wonderful,
that's...
I actually just saw, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just also had that experience with Suzanne Snyder and Jill Schulin and Amanda Wiss. We all just went to a signing convention, and it was just really fun to just, see each other and talk about, oh, yeah, I went for that job, and, oh, you got that job, and I know that was really a cool thing, and what was it like to work with so-and-so? And we did the same thing.
So, it's kind of the nice convention connection circuit. And so we have guests on from time to time. We're not only a guest show, but we do try to every couple months reach out. And one of our favorite guests is Keith Coogan. He's been on several times. Are you familiar with Mr. Coogan's work? Adventures in Babysitting?
Oh, yes. Well, and I know Elizabeth Shue, she was with the same manager that I had, but I never worked with him. I never got a chance to work with him.
So when this podcast started over 8 years ago, it was originally the Elizabeth Shue Project, and we eventually changed our name. And I always said, if we ever interview her, I quit. So that's like it. That's the last thing.
She's that bucket list, right?
Yeah, that's the last one. Then we're done.
She
was our logo.
Yeah, she's great. Oh, you have good taste. She's lovely. I mean, the funny thing about Elizabeth was, like, I know her as, like, I grew up knowing her as Lisa. And so there was like Lisa Shue, and like, oh, it's Elizabeth. And I'm like, oh, you know, and it's like somebody you know from high school, and suddenly they like become a doctor or something. You have to like speak, you know, say something, talk about them differently. And but she, what, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a funny weird. But Elizabeth and I had the same manager growing up, Barbara Jarrett Management in New York. And so we would go on auditions and see each other at auditions, or we'd go up for parts. Like, I think like I was tested for Karate Kid, like the Karate Kid, we all auditioned, and it was down to the wire. Her and maybe another girl, the three of us or something. So we came in contact with each other a lot, but she was always a lovely and she was not only just really a nice and personal person, but she, to me, was somebody who had some elegance to her. And I was really happy to see her stretch in her acting and her work. I mean, it's very interesting. You know, there could be very good actors and actresses, but you can only be somewhat as good as the material. And then you make that material rise. So as you know, so you could get some kind of a maybe cheesy kind of movie or something that's not as serious. But I have to say that all the actors that I know in the 80s, we took our work very seriously, and actors studied acting for, you know, we studied not only maybe privately, but we also studied each other's performances, and we studied, more importantly, I think, older actors. And so when we watched them and we worked, and we had the time during those years to develop our characters. I mean, it wasn't like you went in and on, like you had a character that had maybe an arc. And so, and the storylines focused on teenagers. So I know, like, at least for me, when I was acting, during that time, it was very important for me to make it as real as possible. This is what it's like to be a teenager. And I really have to say that I saw that in the work of all my, actresses, you know, women who were, or young actresses who were acting at the time as well, because there was a sense of depth and integrity in what they did. So as an example, like Breakfast Club, here's you know, if you had that movie and you would just say, okay, here's a script about a group of kids. Well, if you looked at them as kids, or if they were maybe adults playing kids, it would have taken on a maybe corny tone, or perhaps it would have had it would have been sort of judgmental. But because we were all really teenagers or close to teenagers, you know, I mean, close to those ages, whether we're 18 or 19, for work reasons, you know, for being able to be playing, you know, looking younger, being older, playing younger, we all had tremendous integrity about what we were playing. And I have to say, looking back, and when I see films from the 80s, you know, there's a part of one that if you didn't see them, you would not understand how good they were unless you watched them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. We know it.
Yeah. From a fan. I'm sorry.
Just about my work, but I see that I've seen that in other actors' work. So it's, it's exciting. And then I have to say what's very cool too is now still seeing 80s actresses in the business. So many actresses are taking such good care of themselves and are still acting. I mean, we are still the babes, okay?
Right. No disagreement. No disagreement.
And you know, there's an accomplishment and an amazing thing about that, because our mothers were not of that, you know, nature. I mean, it was considered like inappropriate or not, or scary, you know, to have sexuality as you get older, and you know, or to you lose that sense of fun, and it's not to say that every single person who's in the 80s, you know, who's an actress who's become an adult doesn't have obviously that serious side, or has learned how to deal, you know, has their own life issues. But there's a beauty, I think, and that's exceptional in the babes of the 80s. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
And I have to say that as a woman, because if it came from a guy, perhaps I would sound lascivious. But for me, it's like true. Like we take, girls from the 80s take good care of themselves,
You get a free pass.
Yeah, there you go.
You talked about sorry, Diane. You talked a little bit earlier about auditions, but so how did you first get into the business? Like, were you just like, "Hey, mom and dad, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm doing."
Yes, actually. Well, it's funny because I was from the get-go, from 4 years old, I wanted to be an actress, and I think that came from being watching television, because that's all the form of entertainment that I saw. My parents occasionally took me to the opera, and they took me to maybe a play here and there, but not religiously. So the best experience I got and the most experience I got was watching television. And so I started at a young age wanting to be an actress. And I think there was this combination of being very stubborn about it, wanting to do it, but also having a lot of energy. And I remember I just would sing and dance wherever I was. Like, we'd go to a restaurant, I'd get up and start to sing and dance, but it wasn't a show. It was so weird. I just was like a happy kid. And I remember my mom saying to me, just don't ever lose your happiness, because that's something that is so rare. And, but of course she said it like this, don't ever lose your happiness, because she spoke with a German accent. And my father said the same thing, they were German and Austrian immigrants. And, I think they just raised me with appreciation, and because they were immigrants, I think they allowed me to pursue my dream. But what was amazing is they couldn't afford to make it happen. So I found a way. I mean, it was kind of interesting, because I look back and I go, we did not have a lot of money to be, it's not like I had connections or how do you get in there. So for me, I think it just came from the desire. And then I have this thing where I took ballet and I took singing lessons. We didn't have the internet during that time. And so there's no way to learn anything unless you actually had a teacher. So what I really want to say to people who, if they want to pursue entertainment, or they want to, maybe you don't have money and to take classes or lessons. My gosh, the internet is an amazing resource. Like, study people on the internet, look up things, how to do what you want to do. Because the one thing that I did have was a tremendous amount of, I tried to always say, what is it that those people who are working have that I am not, that I don't possess right now? What is it that I need to learn? And so I just really, I think I became a critical thinker, and I was very young. I mean, seriously, one of the things I mentioned in my books, because I have 2 books. My first book was about how I became an 80s actress. And so if you want more detail, then, and go to your favorite chapter in what I've done, you can go to Amazon and look up Diane Franklin book, and you can see. But the funny thing was, I used to watch television with the sound off. And I remember I don't know how it happened. Maybe it was because my parents wanted to go to sleep and I wanted to watch TV or something. I'm not sure. It could have been just starting even something as simple as that. But I remember watching it. And then I would say to myself, do I believe these actors or not? Could I tell the story without words? And how did the actors move? And it was just, so much is learned without sound. So that's how I started learning how to act, was watching and listening. And then when I started doing it, I mean, that's scary, starting to learn and act, but I kept going, and I kept facing, my fear or insecurity. And I just went, I'm just going to do this. So, I guess to be an actor or performer, you need sensitivity to pick up what's around you, and confidence to be able to listen and not always talk like I'm doing now. But, and then at the same time, be stubborn and say, you know what, I have something to offer. I have a voice to offer, and I'm going to, I have something to say, and I'm just going to go after it, but it won't be handed to you. That is for sure. or what is handed to you, maybe you'll have an opportunity that's given to you. Maybe you get you're discovered and someone gives you an opportunity to be on a show or something. But if you don't own it and take that chance and do well when you get that first chance, you're not going to have a career. Do you know, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
It's with anything. I mean, I would say with any job, you're given an opportunity, don't blow it, value it. Say to yourself, how would I want this to be? How do I want my level of work to be? And so you try to have a higher expectations so that then, you feel proud of what you did.
Absolutely. And we will be mentioning them throughout the show, but you did mention your first book, Diane Franklin, The Excellent Adventures of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s. Got it.
Perfect name.
I love the fact that you had to take a breath in between there. That's exactly.
I love it. You know what? You're telling everyone what it is.
It is. And the reason why I chose that title, I remember telling a friend of mine, I'm going to name my book this. And they were like, no, you need a short title. I said, you can't get through that title without laughing. And that's the point, right? The point is that you understand that you start with a sense of humor when you're looking at this book. You start with understanding that I'm not being self-serious. I do talk about things that are serious, but it's part of, it's like, it reflects who I am, and it reflects also, it's very interesting because I really, really push myself to be more outgoing, because I am actually, and no one's going to believe this, but it's really true. I'm really shy. I'm actually really shy. And I try very, very hard to, I put photos out and I put things out because I know sometimes that, even if I don't feel comfortable, it's important to get the word out. And the words I'm putting out is, my first book was, this is the life of an actress. And you may like some of it and you may not, but this is the truth. Okay. And then the second book is, this is life. This is how discoveries are made. This is how, I had curly hair and it kickstarted something, and who knows, other people could do it. And it's sort of like a very brave statement for me as a person, but I think it's just important. So that's why I do it. Okay. Yeah.
So we're not like a behind the actor studio type go through your career, but we do have a couple movies that obviously you were involved in. A few of the movies that really impacted the 80s, and one of them, which is coincidentally is one that we were planning on reviewing next month, it's been on our list, is The Last American Virgin, which was also one of your first big film roles. How was it like being on your first, because was that your first big film, or did you film Amityville 2 first?
Oh, no, but it was Last American Virgin. And it was my first role. And luckily I had been working 10 years before in modeling and commercials and a soap opera. I was on As the World Turns.
As the World Turns. Oh, you beat me.
Yeah, right. And that was so much fun. That was really great because I got to work out, my character. And I played a bad girl. I played a girl who was troublemaker and hid my birth control pills in my shoes and tried to get this other girl, Betsy, in trouble.
Are you referring to Lois Middleton?
Yes. Do you know soap operas as well?
We actually started one of our first things in our friendship. We became friends in high school and college. We decided to start watching Days of Our Lives because we thought it would help us meet girls.
It's a multi-tiered plan. It's multi-tiered. You get in, you learn as much as you can about Stefano, and then you use that to reach out to the ladies, I think.
Right, exactly. Right. Come on over and watch it with me. We're going to watch this show, right?
Well, so what we did was we started watching it over the summer at my parents' house so we could catch up. And then at the university we attended, there was a large room where girls would gather every day and watch, hundreds of girls.
Oh.
And it got to the point where they were talking too much and we couldn't hear the story and we got annoyed. So then we retreated and found a bar that would let us watch it just with us. So it really backfired.
They had really great cheese fries.
They're great cheese fries. We got more into the soap opera than the girls of it. So
it's addictive. It is. You can see once. Well, let's face it, there's a lot of shows that are nighttime soap operas. Do you understand? Like,
absolutely.
So like you have a show that there's daytime, and then the only, daytime caters to women in products and advertising, but then because they were used to be staying home, right? And then that whole audience went to work, and so, but they had the nighttime soap operas, and that isn't even like, remember Dallas, the early years I was saying, and, and Melrose Place, and all those are nighttime soap operas. I mean, if you follow those, but during when we were kids, you couldn't tape it. So if you missed it, you didn't know what happened. And that was horrible, right?
I missed my stories.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy.
An example of a nighttime soap opera that confused me about an hour and a half ago is my wife is a fan of the show Pretty Little Liars, and I have become a fan. And I don't know if you're familiar with the show at all, Diane, but your husband and daughter's last name is also a last name prominently featured in this show. And that was really confusing to me because I knew that was from research that was, your daughter's last name. Yes, De Laurentiis. And then the main character in the show has that last name. And I forgot that until tonight. And then it really kind of boggled my mind for about 20 seconds. I was like, but...
I know. I wondered. People mentioned that to me, or they asked if my husband or my brother-in-law, because he produces. My brother-in-law Bob De Laurentiis, he produces Fargo. So, and we were like, and we wondered if I know, wasn't that a great show? Oh, I love Fargo. I know, right?
It's coming back tonight.
I know. Oh, I know tonight. Right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm recording it.
It gets interesting. I was kind of surprised that they put that name up there, but again, that's my husband's name, so who knows? Maybe that's a connection or a callback to my brother-in-law and my husband. So who knows? But what were you? Oh, you were just talking about.
Let's go back. The Last American Virgin.
That's it, right?
So what was it like being on the set for the first time of like a movie that you were prominently going to be featured in? Was it a different feeling?
Well, here it was an interesting part because I have to say my second book really focuses on that time period of my life as well, because that was the first movie that kickstarted my curly hair. And so the thing I didn't realize when I was filming Virgin, which now I know, was that it was a guerrilla film in the sense that I was flown out here to do the film, and then within a week we were shooting, and then we would show up at these locations, and I didn't know that perhaps they didn't have the permits to shoot or that we had to hurry it up because they, it was nighttime, and they had to only could keep it into a certain time, and I don't know, it was just, so I didn't realize how kind of maverick and shoestring it was in a lot of ways. And today, a lot of people make films, and people, because of YouTube and all that, they're out, and there are a lot of filmmakers out there, and they are winging it, and they are not, obviously paying for every location they go to. But during that time, it was very unusual, and I think they got away with a lot more because no one was looking for it. It was not common, although perhaps more risky because there were definitely big penalties, and they would have had to have been paid if they caught them,
Right. Two things. First, you mentioned your second book. That would be Diane Franklin, The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s.
Yes. And by the way, if you don't have curly hair, you will still enjoy this book because there's tons of photos. I know, right? Everyone's like, I don't have curly hair, so I don't need it. But it is, I mean, you don't have the book yet, right? You didn't get it?
I do not.
Okay,
no,
so
I do.
I can send it to you, or you can get it. It's, when you see this book, you're going to flip out. And I remember I sent it to my editor, and he said to me, because he did my first book, he said, "Oh my gosh, this book is so amazing!" He actually liked it even better than the first, because I bring back so many memories with all these photos, and also there's so many details. I just can't even explain it. You won't be disappointed. But the idea of the curls is just an idea. It's really about I mean, if you've ever felt different, if you've ever not been accepted, this book sort of, takes that on and says, to be yourself is important, and look at the cool things that can happen from it. But also there's another very cool aspect, and that is Brett Ratner wrote the foreword, my introduction. Yes. And if you don't know who Brett Ratner is, he was the director of Tower Heist, and he was the director of Rush Hour, and he recently got a star on the Walk of Fame, and he is a huge movie producer now, where he finance films, and he's just exploded. He's like huge. But I just have to mention, he also owns the rights for Last American Virgin.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yes.
So if he decides to make that film again, and I don't know how many people are into that or not, I told him, well, if you're interested, I'll be in it. So who knows if he can do it, if he wants to do it, but he does hold the rights. So hopefully that could happen. How do you feel about it? Did you see Virgin? Did you see?
Yeah, we've seen that, both of us, many times before, separately, not together.
If you see that film, would you want to see see a remake? What's your thought?
See, I am very hesitant about that, because so I would hope that since he loves the script that he would do it right. But so many remakes have just, every time I see one, like even just advertised, I cringe, and I don't watch them because I don't want that. If it was in the hands of a fan, which he seems to be, and he handled it right, then I would see it. But
I'll tell you, honestly, he did not want. That's why the film hasn't come out yet, because he has told me that he had scripts and he did not like them, and I think, and it is dear to his heart. So I think that's the first thing. But the second thing is, it's really not for our audience. It's for the new generation to understand, But I think I should be in it just for those wonderful callbacks, because that's the great thing about films, is right, the callbacks. Like,
yeah, absolutely. So, I'm throwing my hat in the ring now that you should be in it. If there's a Twitter campaign, if I can write a letter and mail it, I will do so.
Thanks.
I think you should be in it.
Oh, I would love it. So we'll see. But so as far as Virgin goes, again, also, like, when I first did it, I loved the film, but I felt like it was two separate movies. And I remember thinking, like, I felt like I could put a lot of depth in it, but there was also this, sort of raunchy sex comedy aspect of it. And so when I started, I thought, are people going to, like, look at me and think I'm only going to do films with nudity in it? And that's a problem with when actors do nudity, because you never know, like, you say to yourself, how am I going to get hired? Am I going to be pigeonholed into it? So, and I don't regret the nudity at all. I think it's actually now, especially as I'm older, I look back and go, oh, wow, I look pretty good, right? Boy, that was good. I'm glad I got that on film then. But I think when you're a young actress and you're starting off, you're concerned, and you definitely, it's part of the business, but you're concerned about it being the only thing. And but now I look back and I look at that film and I go, oh my gosh, it's such a heartfelt experience. I mean, I just, when I watch it, I go, oh my gosh, it just brings me back. And I do think it's a good film, and I think that the ending, as horrible as it is really a big reason why it's not forgotten today. So, and it's based on the director's life. I mean, it's based on truth. So, and the music. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of aspects of that film I love.
So, Michael, you're going to have to help me out. What was the movie we recently? Oh, Screwballs, right?
Yeah, it was Screwballs, and we did Porky's as well.
Okay,
it was like we're males, and we were into these boob movies for a while. I apologize.
Of course, as every male, and you know what? This was sex education. Hello, I mean, when your parents going to talk to you about it back then, no. So you go and watch these films, and that's why I really think Virgin was really sex education for guys. Which, if they came out with the movie and said, this is a love story, no guy would see it. So you went in because of the sex, and then went, like, what's up with love. You learned about love too. So, or
There's more
terrors of love.
There's more to it than just sex, but Virgin had
Right.
the great soundtrack too. It had Blondies and Cars and Devo and Journey, Police, and U2. Like it was like it was a nice snapshot of the era, just so let people.
Yes.
It was good.
And the clothes, right? The outfits and the hair, right?
Yeah,
Well,
it was essentially 80s.
Yeah. Well, this is a funny thing. I mean, that movie I was supposed to be the typical American teen. And yet nobody looked like me with my hair. Nobody had curly hair. And that's what the funny thing about, Virgin, it was that, all of a sudden I represented this American teen and what, how is that even possible? But, anyway, so you were talking, yes. Oh, you said you saw Porky's too.
Well, yeah, so what we try to do movies in different waves. And about a year ago, one genre we haven't really talked a lot about was the 80s boob type movies.
Right.
And so we did Screwballs, which I don't know if you've ever seen Screwballs. It is it's a low budget Canadian movie. It is horrible and yet great for how horrible it is. I mean, it is wonderfully horrible.
I'm into the Mystery Science Theater movies as well, so I get you. Who was in it?
Oh, no one of note. No one of note. Yeah, it was very low budget. It was done in Canada. However, it has a cult following, and sometimes they show it around the country now and do Q&As just because of how horrible it is. And it's led by the horror movie director.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, do you remember the horror movie director's name? You're a horror guy. I can't think of his name now. I'll look it up.
Okay, go ahead.
And then you said Porky's, and Porky's is really cool because I actually did another movie, a sex comedy. I don't know if you've seen it, called Second Time Lucky. So
I searched for it, but I have not. I think I found it online, but I have not watched it. I looked for it and to try to watch it before this movie. When did you do that?
Let me think.
Did HBO
84?
Did HBO play it nonstop? Because if they didn't, then I probably didn't see it. But I'd still be up to see it.
You know what's funny? That film, I recently was looking through some old. I had some old magazine kind of like, what is it called? That reviews, but like people, like things that people sent me regarding the films.
Right, clips and stuff. Yeah.
And Second Time Lucky, in the 80s, they wanted to put it on the Playboy channel, and I think it wasn't raunchy enough. What's so funny is it's like Gone with the Wind meets Porky's, or Benny Hill. Actually, it's like Benny Hill meets Gone with the Wind. So it wasn't as raunchy as you would want to maybe put on the Playboy channel, but at the same time, there was a lot of nudity because it was a story of Adam and Eve through time. So it starts off in the Garden of Eden, and then it goes through time, and I can't say it's. I'll say this. I think the story was. The reason why I really wanted to do it was because I loved the characters that I was going to play. I played a Egyptian Cleopatra character and a gangster's girlfriend and a French nurse and a Florence Nightingale kind of a character and like a punk rocker. And so to me as an actress, I loved playing all these characters. But I don't know if anyone knows Benny Hill. Benny Hill's that English kind of.
Yes, of course. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right. So it was, and the funny part about that film was, okay, first of all, Bo Derek was originally supposed to play the role, which is bizarre. Like how they went to me, I have no idea. And the guy who directed it was Roger Wilson played opposite me, and he was in Porky's. And the director was Michael Anderson, and Michael Anderson directed Around the World in 80 Days. And he was like an Oscar-winning or Oscar-nominated director. So we expected this film to be amazing. And it looks absolutely amazing. It's stunning. I mean, the photography is gorgeous. But I think, again, the mixture of, it's almost like how Virgin took these two different types of stories and put it together. In this case, it didn't, I don't know, it didn't work. You want to laugh, but then you don't laugh, but you laugh. I don't know. You let me know. You see it and you let me know.
I can tell you that if you want to purchase it on Amazon, you can buy it for $30 on DVD. Mm-hmm. As I'm looking at this, I don't ever read the reviews, but the first review is titled "Diane Franklin is gorgeous in a fun little movie."
Oh, well, I'll take that. I'll take that.
It says, Diane Franklin has such a beautiful smile, and while there are ample opportunities to see her naked, the shots of her lovely face breaking into a smile are what stayed with me. I think this guy likes you. Or girl. Who wanted to know?
That's nice.
Oh, it's Mark. It's a guy.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's actually really well reviewed online. So the people who have seen it really seem to like it.
Well, I'll tell you something. If people see it, I challenge them to a review. I would love for you to send me a review. Go to actress Diane Franklin at gmail.com and send me your review because, or, just, I mean, if you liked it, didn't like it, either way. I loved playing the character. I loved doing it, but I would have to say that it's, it's not everybody's taste, although I think a guy will really like it.
Well, I tell you what, we will do one better than that. I will commit to within the next, we'll say 60 days that we will do an episode on that movie. Wow. So Michael and I will do a whole episode on Second Time Lucky, and then we will let you...
You will have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we will send you that. We will send you the link to that episode for you to critique our critique of Second Time Lucky. So that is recorded. It is in the records. And although I often say things on here I don't remember, I will write it down. I will type it down right now in our list of show notes. So
okay, good.
It will happen. So you did other movies. Obviously you went from. You went to Amityville 2, which I'm not a horror movie guy. Michael is a horror movie filmmaker in his own right. So that was probably more of one that he would have watched. I don't really do those type of movies. Michael, are you a fan of the Amityville franchise?
Glenn doesn't like to be scared. He doesn't like to be scared.
I like a story. I like a love story. I like.
He likes to leave the movie feeling good. He doesn't want to leave feeling nervous. You and Quentin Tarantino are big fans of Amityville 2. I just actually, there was a screening at Quentin's theater, and I just went there and did a Q&A, and awesome. One of his favorite films that I've done. So,
and this was on film. It wasn't a video. It was on film.
Yes, it was on film.
Yes,
it was actually the film. And he actually told me he just loved, that was his favorite film that I did. So he liked that and Virgin, but I think he might have liked Amityville the best. And I think that film was, again, I'm always shocked because that's the middle film. I mean, people don't usually like the middle. They like the first, So I'd like to know your opinion. I mean, have you seen Amityville? You saw Amityville, right?
Oh, yeah. It's... I really like it's the whole, isn't there like 8 different ones? I think there's like 8 different Amityvilles in front of it. I mean, for that.
Oh, yeah, they did span. Like even Jennifer Jason Leigh did one and Lori Loughlin did this third one. That's interesting.
I have a question for you about it. Although, as I said, I'm not a fan. I do have a question about the movie. Yeah. Did you get to work with Burt Young, directly?
Yes, he's amazing.
That is awesome.
I loved working with Burt because Burt was such a deep and sensitive and cool actor to watch. And he was just like, he would go and he was so real and so instinctive, about when he acted. And then he would get so into it and we would do the scenes and then we would break and he'd be laughing and joking. And to me, when an actor has so confident that they can do that, that was such a wonderful thing to see for me because it was like he was in such control of what he could do,
right?
That he could relax between. And I think part of it is that, as you learn and you act a lot, you start understanding that you just have to be the character, own the character. And he just was, I learned so much from working with him, and we had the best time. And actually, like, all of us did, like Tanya, Alda, she was lovely. And she and I became really close friends. And Jack kind of stayed a little bit back because his character had to be a little divorced from us. So we didn't get to know him as well, but we did, social things, but he was more quiet. So, but he was still wonderful to work with. And I just said that film was great. And I can't tell you, speaking to understand why horror is so much fun is that I think what's great about horror is, first of all, obviously you get to act out things you would never do in real life. And
hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, right. And also, you get to die, you get to come back and haunt. It's really fun, right? That aspect. And then also horror is, it gets you a chance to get scared, but then you can recover. And so that feeling of being understanding, like you can experience something, but know when you're done, you can reflect on it is it's more therapeutic, I think, for people. That's like you can reflect on it, which is great. Like, oh yeah, I beat that vampire, or like that's what I would have done. I would have attacked that zombie, So you get to try out your specific feelings on things. Yeah. And then the other thing I think is interesting about horror is I like realistic horror. Like if something's too, like I like the beginning of Amityville better than the second half in a way. I liked Exorcism, that aspect, because I grew up with The Exorcist. But the first half of the movie is so much more real to me, and it's scary. And there's something about the house as opposed to a person. Like when you start seeing that it's sunny, then it becomes a little concrete. But before, it's like there's something weird about the house. And who hasn't ever been in a house and went, "What's that? What's that sound? Who's that?" So what you don't see is scarier than what you see. So that to me is what's exciting about the
suspense.
Yeah, the suspense. I like that. So,
Glenn, it's okay.
But I also and fake blood's fun, right? The track mime, they're really cool. So,
right.
All right.
So the thing is I'm looking over. There's some of the things I want to talk to you most about are the little parts that you had, but in the interest of time. Maybe at some point you'd be able to come back. We could do another episode if you wanted. We could just talk about some of your literal roles, but we could talk for hours. But in the interest of time, let's talk about a couple more of the bigger ones here. Next being, of course, which I don't want to say and I don't know how you view this, but this one probably is your most well-known movie movie role you were in, only because it's become the cult classic of the 80s, and that's Better Off Dead. Like, this movie is just blown up. In the last 10 years, I think it's probably doubled in popularity from its first 20 years. And that could just be me saying it, but when we talk 80s, that is the movie people always want to talk about, and that's the Savage Steve Holland classic. How did you come about to be considered for the role of Monique? Did you audition, or did you audition for a different role? How did that all work?
Wow, I just got lucky. I got lucky because they just called me for this audition. The fun part was I had done Second Time Lucky right before, and so I had practiced my French accent, and I'd worked on a French accent. So when I read the script and I saw there was a French girl, I thought, well, they're obviously going to see me for the French girl. And then when I get in there, they said, no, we want to see you for Beth. And they said, no, you don't want to see me for Beth. You want to see me for Monique because I am going to be Monique. And I can do this. And they were like, no, wait, what? And I said, but I am, you want me to try to be like this. And, so I started to improvise, but there was such a strong connection to this character. It was like saying, and this is, again, a good point for other actors, is if you feel that part is yours, my gosh, don't try to get it. Just be it. Just be it, because that's you. It connects with you. And I just loved playing Monique. And then it was, and I was after I left that room, I knew that they were surprised that I could improvise with the accent, but when I left, I thought, oh, please, please let me get this part. Like, it didn't even matter about anything in the film. It was just like, I just loved that character, and and the film was the, icing on the cake. Like, again, at that time, there were no films that didn't have a gratuitous nudity scene or violence, or shooting in theaters, because they had to get the audience out of their houses into the theaters, and they would always try to put something that was just a little risque, or bad language, something that you couldn't get at home. And that movie was so funny that all these actors, Vincent Schiavelli, like he was in Cuckoo's Nest, and they wanted to be in this film. So many people just wanted to be in this film. So it would be interesting. I never asked Savage what other actresses wanted to be in the film or he auditioned that didn't get the parts. But I just went in with I love this film. So
what was it like working with Savage Steve Holland? He said everything I've read about him says he's awesome.
He is the best. I mean, he's just a lovely guy, and he's so funny, and he's so self-effacing. And I just love working with him. He's just a great guy, and I think why actors as well as crew love working with Savage is because he's so humble, and he's so endearing, and he's sort of like John Cusack's character. Do you know what I'm saying? Well, actually, it was kind of about his life. So he modeled John's character after himself. So if you love John, then you actually love Savage. Also, FYI, Savage did my foreword for my first book, and then Brett did this foreword for my second book. And I was like, see if I can get a director to do it. And Savage wrote Love Letter for Diane Franklin, and so he wrote the nicest forward, and he talked about how he cast me in the film. So if you're interested in that, go get that book, because it's so good. And also, I have to let you know some upcoming things. This November, I will be with Curtis Armstrong and Amanda Wiss at this event called 80s in the Sand. And it is an 80s celebration. It's going to be 80s bands and 80s celebrities. I think Deborah Foreman is going to be in it. She's the one who
nice.
To get me. I know, right? Deborah told me she was doing it, and then I was like, oh, please, I really want to be in it. And she contacted me with the person who was in it, so I got to get in it. And then I said, well, what about, Amanda and Curtis? And so that's how that happened. And then, I think Andrew McCarthy is going to be in it, and Anthony Michael Hall, and then there's going to be like Downtown Julie Brown, and then like Bow Wow Wow, and like, oh gosh, there's so many bands that are going to be there. So if you're interested, and it's a week in the Dominican Republic. So if you have a birthday or an anniversary, or like you're planning something, you want to get something special, you should go to this, because it's never going to happen again. I mean, this is crazy. So that's coming then. So 80sinthestate.com.
Yeah.
Check.
We'll look that up, and we will plug that on our show. And because I know we definitely have some listeners who'd love to do that. We actually,
I have to say, if I wasn't included in it, I'd still want to go. That's how cool it is. So
it sounds awesome. Yeah. Deborah Foreman actually was one of the first actual 80s movie stars to follow us on Twitter, like without us following her. And then we talked a couple times about her coming on the show, and then we have not followed up with each other. So we'd love to have her sometime as well. Why not? So unfortunately, when you talk about Better Off Dead, and you don't have to say anything, we can move past it. But the one stigma about it is John Cusack and his reaction. That's
my film. Okay. This is such a controversial issue. It's so weird. Okay, first of all, yes, John did walk out of the screening. He did. Okay? But he was like 17, and at the time...
that's very true. Yeah.
Okay? And like the other thing is, like, he was just beginning his career, and I think, honestly, when you're at that age, you're sort of going, I don't want to be seen as like embarrassing guy or like the guy who's like funny. He wanted to be, I think he saw his career as being more serious or at least extending to those areas. And John's always been like he's a very sweet, he's a very deep guy, and he's very politically aware. And I think he just didn't want to, he didn't see himself like that.
Right.
I have to, like, I kept saying over the years, you don't understand how endearing you are in that film. And hopefully, I mean, I think as the years have gone on, he started to see what people were talking about, because that film made him so endearing that people then, fell for him, and they'll now listen to him because they saw that side of him. And they saw this, it's important to see a little bit of he wasn't a lighter side, but perhaps maybe the underdog, and so.
Absolutely.
Right? He's the underdog in that film. So it's interesting because when I think of John in the film, I never think of him as somebody to be made a fool of. I always think of him as the sweetest, like, you want to just be with this guy. And, I just love him. I think he's not only talented, but I think his heart he's just got a really great heart. And the time we spent together was very special to me and very valuable. And I was, over the years, I was trying to contact him, and I would love to get together or even like do a convention together, just because I know that we would have a wonderful time, because I know how to do those things. And I'm very, like, it's very, all I can tell is when you do a convention and people come to you and they say that they've seen your work and they love you from what they've seen, it's like you're part of their childhood, and it's something to embrace.
Absolutely.
You can't, snub your nose at that. That's not okay. It's like people grew up watching you, and maybe you were their role model, or maybe you were their inspiration. And I think that's a gift, to be a person who can influence people like that. And so I hope that now he's starting to do conventions. I hope that now he ingratiates people more. I think he is opening up a little bit more about it. But I think regardless, I think he's a more private person. And because of that,
absolutely,
that's why maybe he hasn't gone all gung-ho and joined us in all this, our Better Off Dead, get-togethers. I mean, I would have invited him to this 80s in the sand thing, but I don't know if, I think maybe he would have been, he's still more shy, I think. I don't know. So
right.
I'm going to say space. So
I'm going to say something very controversial, but I believe it.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
There is no Lloyd Dobler if there isn't a Lane Meyer.
Oh.
I think that roles like this got him that type of role.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Absolutely. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And how we all influence each other's careers too, like in people's lives. You never know. I know Brooke Shields influenced my life, which she had her dark eyebrows, and then my curly hair influenced the flash dance and the whole curly hair world. You just don't know who you're, or even, I know there were a lot of girls who have told me, thank goodness you had curly hair, because then I felt like I could wear my hair curly. But, with John, it's like, you start off as an actor and then you find out, wow, it's, you're doing something that opens people's lives up.
Yes.
So I don't know. And people have done that for me, and they've done it for my family as well. So we're all one. We get it. If those of you who are listening understand what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, it's all community.
Yeah.
So how did Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure come about?
Bill and Ted's. All right. That came out of left field. All of a sudden, I get this audition, and it was very last minute to audition for Bill and Ted's. And I thought, once again, I was going in for the French girl. And when I went in, I was like, okay, I'm going to get the part of Joan of Arc. They have no idea I'm going in with this, and I'm going to talk like this, and it's going to be fabulous. Well, then I find out that, when I didn't get the part of Joan of Arc, but they said, well, could you do an English accent? And of course I can do an English accent. I can totally. But who's English in this film? I don't see anybody in the script. And they're like, well, we have these English princesses. And I was like, you really want me to come and play an English princess, which is lovely, but it's sort of, I just didn't see the role. I didn't see maybe a couple of lines of dialogue. And then I realized Joan of Arc doesn't have any dialogue. Maybe she says one French word, but she has no dialogue. So that's what happened. They didn't need the accent, they needed the look. So, and my hair was very long at the time, and they, I'm sure obviously they cast, they wanted to have Jane Whedon to come in.
Yeah, Jane Whedon, yeah.
Whedon to play that brings in a whole other audience because she's a musician. And she did a great job too. I mean, she's adorable, and I love her, and I love her music.
God bless the Go-Go's.
Right? I mean, the Go-Go's, again, how can you have the 80s without the Go-Go's? I mean, that's brilliant, and wonderful. And great idea for casting as well. And so with me, like, I was like, okay, I guess I'll play a princess. And then they called me and said, oh, you got the role of the princess. And I thought, the princess? I didn't even see that in the script. Like, where'd the princess go? I didn't, because it was written, it was all sort of exposition, like the princess, they see the princesses and they like walk to the princesses. And so it wasn't a lot of dialogue. So we didn't really know what was, what was up. And then they added some dialogue. And so then we just showed up to do the film. And originally we actually shot, there was a Bill and Ted went to the prom. And so we went to Arizona and we shot the prom at a high school in Arizona. And then they decided, and they said, well, I don't know about this. If we want to have them go to the prom at the end. So then they switched the ending to a garage in the Pacific Palisades. And that's where we shot the end with and bringing him back. Which was wonderful. George Carlin was just lovely and hilarious.
What a dream.
Right?
Did you?
But I have a little inside scoop too. Dino De Laurentiis originally was supposed to produce that film. And I had worked with him on Amityville. And what happened was he got the script and supposedly he did not get the humor in it. Like, he didn't understand it. And he let it pass. And then, of course, it became a huge hit, which was terribly ironic. It's sad for him because he was looking for that hit, and there you go. So just different sensibilities, different sense of humor. Some people, that's what it is. Like, some people either you get it or you don't. And if you can't make somebody get something they don't get, especially humor,
So, was that your brother-in-law?
No, that was Dino De Laurentiis. So Dino De Laurentiis, who produced Dune, and he did the,
Oh, yes.
And
Gotcha.
He produced Amityville. I know, right? Dino De Laurentiis spells his name with 2 I's at the end, and we spell our name with 1 I. So it was Italian, sort of a fungal, so separate, we're on different sides of the family, right? So, it is interesting that he was so close to having that film and then let it go. So just a little tidbit, another side note.
You love tidbits. Did you have any interaction with Kimberly Cates?
Oh, yes. And in fact,
I know you guys had screen time, but like any backstage friendship or?
Oh, yeah. First of all, we not only shot the last scene there, but we went to Italy together. Actually, we went to Italy to shoot the ending of the film. So we got to spend a lot of time together. And we had a really fun time. And we hung out with Keanu and Alex. And it was very laid back and very fun. There was, we didn't, obviously at the time, we didn't know the film was going to be as successful as it was. And we were just, kind of all dressed up in our medieval costumes and kind of hanging out, talking about filmmaking and work and and then okay, we got to shoot it. Okay, everyone stands up and gets into their character and like, oh no, you're being beheaded, and so and then we sit down and we take a break, and Alex would like look at the shots because Alex Winters was always interested in film and filmmaking, and so they would talk about the shots, and I just feel lucky that I got to work with Keanu. First of all, I feel lucky I got to work with Keanu at all. Then I feel lucky I got to work with Keanu on a comedy. And I just saw this, he's just adorable. He's handsome. He's just so cute. His character was just so endearing. I mean, you cannot not fall in love with that guy. He's just adorable. So it was just a fun time. And Kimberly Cates and I, since then have gotten together and we've done some conventions, and that's been so much fun because we sort of get to get together again. And I think it's just fun when people come up and then they have their kids and then they're like, oh, these are the princesses, and they can show the movie to their kids and we take pictures with them. And so it's a wonderful experience to pass on the tradition of that film, as well as Better Off Dead 2.
Do you think there'll be a sequel?
Sorry.
Do you think a sequel's going to happen for Bill and Ted?
Oh, good question. All right. So they've wanted to do Bill and Ted's 3 for a while. Kimberly has been telling me that Alex and Keanu have been thinking about it, been trying to get this done. For whatever reason, maybe they didn't like the scripts that they've been given. Maybe it took them a while to get their financing. Maybe they're trying to see if there's an audience. It has taken so long, and I'm thinking like, I don't want to be a grandmother by the time I get an opportunity to do this. Who am I? I'm English, right? So I've been sitting there thinking, well, are the guys going to have us in it? Are they going to do it? And so Kimberly told me that they are going to move forward with it and that they are considering us, or they want us to be in the film. They've always wanted us to be in it. Again, I think it would be wonderful for a callback. But then again, it just depends on their story. I mean, if they don't have the babes in it, then we wouldn't be in it. If they do, I just think it's it's hilarious to think that Bill and Ted are now in their, 40s, 50s, and they're, their kids are screaming and their wives are saying, we're going to the mall, so you just take care of it, right? We're going to take off and come here, lovely. Like, we're going to get our nails done. I mean, it would be just so funny to see that aspect of their lives, or we have to go to work since you boys are sitting around watching television, playing video games, right? That would be such a fun thing to be able to do. So we will see. I am curious as you are, but definitely we are in contact with them, which is great.
One favor I would ask of you is, if you're doing a convention in the near future with Miss Cates,
yes,
if you would ask her what it was like to be on the final season of Murder, She Wrote, that would mean a lot to me.
Oh my gosh, was she? That is amazing. I will ask her, and I will let you know. I'll have her contact you directly, because
that would be fine.
I can't even believe it. She was on the same show. Here's a beautiful example. We were on the same show and never met until Bill and Ted's. See, that's amazing. My daughter Olivia actually had that experience. This is another little side note. My daughter is a filmmaker and actress, and when she was 7 years old, she did this short film for Disney called The Cat That Looked at the King. It's on YouTube, and she plays a young Jane Banks. So it was Julie Andrews, Jane Banks, and then the boy who played the young character who played the boy. And so she did this little film for them. And what happens is they brought back the original set of Mary Poppins for this job. Roy Disney, it was his pet project. And the character, this boy and Julie Andrews hop into a chalk painting and wind up in an animated short. Well, when they're in the animated short, there's an actor named David Ogden Stier who plays the king. And so what happened was David Ogden Stier he played the dad in Better Off Dead. So I worked with him, maybe 30 years ago now. And then he was in a film with my daughter who was 7 years old, but he never knew it because he did the animation and the voice. So I always thought, I said to my daughter at the time, I'm like, you don't know this, but there's this guy who's doing the voice of the king, and mommy knows him really well. And it was such a wonderful moment for me. And then she had to do an English accent. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've done an English accent. And so she was so young, she didn't know what a treat it was for me to see her play, and she just she just had that, she just knew how to do it. And it was a great moment for me, like a time traveling moment, like, oh my gosh, the past and the present were coming together for me. So
right. That's awesome.
See that, if you watch that film and you go see The Cat That Looked at the King online, you'll see that, and you'll know what I'm talking about. It's like, oh my God. It's Diane Franklin's daughter, right?
So I was going to bring her up later, but since we're talking about her now, so tell us about what your daughter's doing now. I know she's in a comedy troupe, correct?
She is actually working in a comedy with another actress as a comedy team, and they call themselves Barely Legal Comedy. And my daughter, her name is Olivia De Laurentiis, not Franklin, De Laurentiis, and her partner, her writing partner is an actress partner is Sydney Heller. And what happened was Olivia originally, she's been making films seriously since she was 5 years old. She made her first film at 5. She got her first film award at 12. And then she was at the LA Film Festival at 15 and Soho Film Festival at 17 with like half-hour films. Like her first film was 12 minutes. So Olivia's been making films, but they were comedies since she was really little. And so what happened was she met this girl Sydney in high school, and they got involved with this organization called Comedy Sports, which is a high school improv team, and they learned to do improv through doing comedy sports. And they worked with this their director, who's the person who's running the team, was Cinco Paul, and Cinco Paul is the writer and was Academy Award nominated for Despicable Me, Despicable Me 2, and he wrote all the Despicable Me's are his, as well as Good Pets, The Secret Life of Pets, and The Lorax, and he's like an amazing comedy writer in animation. So the girls really were surrounded by a lot of comedy. Also, my husband is he is the story editor, writes Fairly Odd Parents and Bunsen is a Beast. I know, right? So my kids like comedy so much.
Fairly Odd Parents.
They understand story structure, and she hooked up with Sydney, and they work together, and they are hilarious. And so they've had so much experience, and they write so much, and they worked in comedy so much that they formed this team, and they've recently put these created a web series that's called Sugar Babies. So if you are on, if you go on YouTube and you put Sugar Babies Olivia, or Olivia De Laurentiis, you will find it, because if you just put Sugar Babies or you just put Barely Legal Comedy, you're going to get porn. Okay, so porn, that's just fine, but that's not my daughter. So, but Sugar Babies is a show about two girls who decide that they need to make some money because they're run out of money, and they've decided that they're going to make money as sugar babies, and they're going to date all these guys, but they refuse to have sex with them. And actually, that's the funny part. So they're very sexy and very funny, and so that's they're perhaps trying to get that made into a show, into a deal. They're shopping it around, and but in the meantime, people can, if you want to see it before, if it gets picked up, it's gonna fly. But right now, if you're interested in seeing what the show is, she's got I think 5 episodes or 6 episodes up, and they're making 2 more, and it's unbelievable. And I'm in one of them. So Olivia De Laurentiis and Sydney Heller, remember those names, and Barely Legal Comedy. So
it seems like a good idea. It seems like a good idea for IFC or maybe Comedy Central eventually. I liked it. I think it sounds awesome.
But there's a lot of foul language, so just watch. No little kids. No one. If you can't take foul language, don't watch it. All right. So
no Barely Legal Comedy for the kids.
Right.
Is your daughter the type of girl who would use a Dennis Reynolds quote in her yearbook? Because I think from Always Sunny. I think.
Yes. Oh, Dennis.
I
wish you could see this right now. Right now, there is a picture of the guy in it too with the beard, and what's his name?
Charlie?
Rob McElroy. Mac.
No, the other guy.
Charlie
Day.
Yeah, Charlie. Charlie was at Comic-Con, and my daughter, she stayed up all night to stand in line to get a picture with him, and I am looking at that picture right now on her wall. It's hilarious. So yeah, she's a huge Sunny in Philadelphia fan. I can't even say the words. Everything Sunny in Philadelphia. What is the name of the title now?
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's Always Sunny, yes. Oh, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She loved that show, loves that show. And so I think a lot of her sense of humor was inspired by that as well. Although,
that is a scary place the internet is. I just looked at your daughter's yearbook.
But her quotes are good. Yeah.
Yes.
You get it. That's the thing about Olivia is when you start watching her stuff, the inside humor and the inside jokes you're gonna get. She is so smart. I mean, she wouldn't say this, but she's in Mensa. Like it's crazy. Like she spoke at 9 months. I mean, I'm such a mom. Like I'm momming out now, but she's brilliant. And I'm not. And like every mom says that about their kids, but it's true. So, so you're going to see a lot of, she's beyond her years in her writing. And so when you listen to her and you watch her stuff, you're going to say to yourself, did she just say that? Did she just mean that? And yes, she did say that. And yes, she did mean that. So fun.
Her Twitter, I'm reading her Twitter right now and it's cracking me up. So at OCD De Laurentiis, and you can find her. It's very funny stuff. There's a picture of you photoshopped onto somebody else, which she's it's good times. So I do not. So we don't want to hold you hostage all night, but there is one more movie before we discuss kind of a couple things that if I don't bring up, Michael will kill me. Yeah, because it is one of his. He doesn't talk about it as much as he used to, but I know that Michael loves How I Got Into College.
Oh, now see, I thought you were going to say Terror Vision. So you could
curveball.
Right, there you go. I loved How I Got Into College. I loved the role I played. That role was Savage Steve Holland cast me in that, and I am so grateful because I play the stepmom who looks about the same age, if not younger, than my stepson. And so I come off, I'm dating like a much older man, the father, the stepfather, I guess, or I'm the stepmother and he's the father of that. And that is such a funny part. And just, and that's Savage. I mean, Savage just set it up for me and just cast me in it. It was so, so, so funny. And the only thing I regret about that movie is not having been able to meet who is the main girl? Laura
Flynn Boyle.
Laura Flynn.
Laura Flynn Boyle.
Laura Flynn Boyle. Right.
Yes.
So I wish that I had scenes with her or had met her during that shoot because we didn't have scenes together, so I didn't get a chance to. But it was, again, just a hilarious movie and so much fun. The actors were great to work with. And I think one of my favorite parts was like, please take this boy because we want to like go on with our life. So just take him, please, college, just take him. I just love that moment in the film. I thought that was really funny.
So, as I said, there are so many more projects that you've done that we could talk about. And if you ever have something you want to promote or if you just want to come back, of course, we'd love to have you back and we can go through some more of your lesser known stuff.
Wait, I do have to add some things just for updating you guys. I will be doing a couple of conventions. The first. Oh,
we're not getting rid of you. We still have questions and plugs.
Oh, you do? Okay, because
you can do your conventions now, though.
Good. Oh, okay. Well, okay. So I'm going to be in Stockton, California, and that is. I'm just taking a look to see at a convention, and maybe I have the information. Stockton is going to be, I think, Sinister Creature Con. And that's going to be from June 10th to June 11th. So I will be up there. And then Amanda Wiss is going to be there also, and Heather Langenkamp, and we're all friends. Oh. So that's going to be super fun. I mean, there's other people who are going to be there that are awesome, but just to let you know, if you're like the 80s babes of the girls of the 80s, we're all going to be there, which will be super fun. And then I'm going to be in Dallas, Texas, and I'm going to be I just want to get the name right for this, so hold on. It's end of May, I think the last weekend of May, so hold on, where is it? And that is going to be Famous Monsters. And I think that is, I'm looking at the calendar. When do they have it? Oh, it's the last weekend in May, and I don't have it. So you can go to famousmonsters.com and check that out. And that will be super duper fun as well. And then what else? I'm going to be in New York at AuthorCon. And I'm not sure where that is either, but that's going to be in October.
Okay, well, any dates you have, just send them to us too. We will plug them.
That's good.
And you can also go onto your website.
Yes. Yes, you can go to, you could go to,
No?
No, I'm going to tell you something. If you want to find out what's going on with me, my Facebook account filled up. So you can't go there anymore until I can figure out a way to get 2 sites. But Facebook, I had all these fans and then they shut me down. So I was like, no, sir, where'd these people go? So go to Diane Franklin 80 on Twitter, Diane Franklin 80. And that's where I would post shows or what's going on. And then you can also go to Instagram and it's Diane to be with you. Diane to be with you. D-I-A-N-E, right? So my daughter said, you got to make something that has your name in it. That's like a double entendre or whatever. So, and then let's see. So that's how you can find out. And also if you go to Facebook and you go to I don't know what you call the fan site. Is that the main one? I still don't get Facebook so much. I mean, I feel like it's like you friend me, we talk. That's it. But I guess the fan site is also where I post information. So if you friend me or whatever, you go to that site, like it, and then also there you'll have a bunch of information of when and where all these conventions and things are. And also my book. My books are, you can access my books from Facebook as well. And I guess you could go to DianeFranklin80sbook.com as well for autograph information or whatever you like. So there's different things. Yeah, I would check that out. Oh, by the way, I do want to say this. For people who are out there and you're filmmakers, I love new filmmakers. I mean, I love the whole idea of people because my daughter, I do comedies for her, but if anyone has a horror or sci-fi or an action film that they're interested in, I'm always interested in seeing new scripts and working on new things. So just keep that in mind. Obviously I need to be paid, but still obviously that's not, it doesn't have to be a huge amount, obviously, because I'm in a place where, I mean, I know
it's
that
fun to do.
But also I know filmmakers, it helps them out. And as Absolutely. A result, just to let you know, last year I did 2 thrillers that are supposed to come out this year. One is called Waking Nightmare with Shelley Regner, who is, she's in the Pitch Perfect movies. She plays one of the Bellas, and David Naughton is in it. I don't know if you remember him, Dr. Pepper. And then, David Naughton and, Jameson Newlander, who was in Lost Boys. He plays my husband. So that's Waking Nightmare. And then another film that I did, which is sort of an art film, but it's a thriller also, is called The Final Interview. And that, I think, is going to come out after May. They're going to try to see if they can get into theaters. But that is a wonderful film. And Granger Hines plays my husband. And it's sort of shot like a play, but it's incredibly scary and thrilling. And it's about a guy who's on death row, and he's giving his last interview. And I play the ex-wife of the main interviewer, who's sort of like a Walter Cronkite kind of esque guy who's giving the final interview to this convict's giving the final interview to. But it's very suspenseful. My daughter saw it and she couldn't take her eyes off it. So we've seen the rough cut. And so keep your ear peeled for that one, The Final Interview. And
one of the people on this podcast got top billing for that, and it wasn't me or Michael. I'm just saying, Diane, you are top billing right now for that movie.
Yes, I am, which is very nice. I mean, I got to say, I'm flattered, and I just think that filmmaking is wonderful, and I love the fact that there's so many new filmmakers out there now that are experimenting and just go after it. Just find your voice and put your films out there and just don't give up. Go after it. I think that's really, you got to be stubborn.
What about Wally Got Wasted?
Oh my gosh, how do you know about that?
I know things.
Do you have inside scoop?
I know where things are happening.
Okay, so I did a pilot for this wonderful guy named Adam Ward. He's the director, and he is also an actor, and he made this pilot, and so I did it with one of my students, actually, an actress named Jamie Lynn Evans, and so that's how I met Adam. And I loved working on the pilot. He's so funny. And he remembered me, and he's doing this movie called Wally Got Wasted, which is a callback to the 80s of Bernie.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's, right? So I'm going to be in this film, and I haven't shot it yet. I'm going to shoot it in May. But I'm so excited. I can't believe you know that. That's so funny. Very excited about it. It's going to be really, really fun.
So, for you, Diane, if you at some point send us any dates you have, we will put them on our Twitter and Facebook pages, and
Great.
So make sure that our fans know those as well. You mentioned Heather Langenkamp. Her former TV father is a friend of the show, Bill Kirkenbaugh. So,
nice. She is a doll. She is so sweet. Heather and we were friends. I mean, literally, we would hang out. Amanda and I and her would hang out in the 80s. Like, we would get together and, have each other's houses and just like apartments. And it was great.
You were friends with a Lubbock babe?
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's all true.
So I have one last question before we go. And that is, tell us about, is there any roles out there that you auditioned for that you didn't get? Kind of a famous role that you were really hoping to get?
Hoping to get. Okay, hoping to get. Well, that has to be Amadeus. Although if I did Amadeus, I would have never gotten Better Off Dead. So I have to say that.
I think you won.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And you know what? Even my kids were saying, "Mom, I'm so glad you didn't do that movie." But I think it just would have taken me in a totally different direction. But that was that's a great story, and it's in my first book. And in fact, just letting you know, I have the actual audition. I have the footage from the screen test. At some point, maybe I'll share that with people, but it's incredible. Like, it was intense and it was amazing. I have that. And I also, by the way, have the episodes of the soap opera from As the World Turns. So maybe
really?
To figure out how to get that online as well. So that's very cool. Some kind of unusual, retro things.
Right. That's awesome.
But yeah, Amadeus was amazing. I think I would have, Karate Kid would have been great. I would have loved that. Although I definitely think Lisa did a great job. She did an amazing job. But I liked that part. That was fun. And I was kind of, I don't know. There was a movie that, there was a book called That Was Then, This Was Now. It was a book on, I want to say maybe it was written in the 60s or something. And a film director wanted to make that into a film. And she had Treat Williams in it, and she wanted me to play the lead, and I forgot what it's called now. But they wound up making it into a film, and I didn't want to do it because I had been playing passive victims for a lot of things, and I really just was like, I can't play this anymore. I just can't do it. And but they wanted to hire me. They offered me the role, and then I was supposed to go into screen test, and I said I can't do it, and something came up also that didn't allow me to do it. And then that's what got Laura Dern her first break. Laura Dern was in the film. Oh gosh, what was the name of it? I have to think.
Was Emilio in it?
No, it was Treat Williams and her, and that was her first big break. And it was like, it got awards, and it was a very high profile film, but I think it was great because she did it. It's like, if I would have done it, maybe I wouldn't have embraced it the way she did. And so I really think that sometimes what one actor doesn't see the gold in, another does, and that's what makes it amazing. And I mean, even with that's why, even with Virgin, another actress playing that role, I don't think would have put in the depth or the thought or the delicateness or the whatever, just my take on it wouldn't have maybe perhaps appreciated it as much as I did. And
Smooth talk.
Smooth talk. That's right. Smooth talk. So perhaps if I had done that, that would have been something, again, it's in hindsight, would have been more of a good move as an actor. But again, I was always interested in the characters I was playing, not so much the projects. And perhaps that's a downfall in my career as far as being that popular. I was always more of a cult actress. But on the other hand, I think that makes it, more interesting. Maybe I made films that maybe people wouldn't have seen, who knows? So, but I will say this, I'm always amazed and grateful for the work that I've gotten. And I'm always still shocked that people watch and remember me in my films, in the films I've been in, because it is definitely not a given. And there will be a time where people may not know who I am, but hopefully their children or whatever will go, gosh, what's that film? Maybe we should put that in and watch it. And then maybe they'll go, oh, look at that actress. She was pretty cool, right? Maybe that will happen. So we'll see.
Well, Diane, thank you so much. What a joy this has been.
Oh,
you're wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being on the show.
You.
Thank you so much.
Both of you.
We
Lawrence, you're in a little square in front of me, and Michael, you're in a little circle.
Okay.
Red hair. So there you go. Right?
Yeah, he's very gingery.
Gingery.
Very gingery.
That's good.
We always. I'm sorry.
My son has red hair, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So they can say the word, Michael?
It's okay. It's fine.
The G word.
It's okay.
Well, Diane, we always end our show by telling our listeners to stay awesome. So stay awesome, everybody.
Stay awesome and be totally excellent, all right? And stay awesome with the 80s, all right? From Diane Franklin.
Stay awesome.